people think about external factors when it comes to running a company or owning their own business, and these things can have a huge impact on the company if they're not handled in the right way. The purpose of this discussion is to discuss how they can affect the company and how the companies handle them. So, on this presentation, I'm going to talk about a lawsuit, a strike, and the effects of inflation. So first I'm going to start off by talking about a lawsuit that was made against McDonald's. First it started out with a 79-year-old woman named Stella, and she got burned on her lap with coffee. McDonald's tried to say that it was her fault and that she was at fault for doing this. So what happened is she was in the passenger seat. After she got her coffee, they pulled over, and she went to open the lid to pour her cream and sugar in it, and then it burned her entire lap because it all spilled all over her. McDonald's stated that they kept their coffee between 180 and 190 degrees Fahrenheit, and at this level, it could burn anybody within seconds. She stated that she was trying to settle this for $20,000 just to cover her medical bill. She didn't want anything more than that. But McDonald's said that they would not offer her more than $800, saying that it was her fault that this happened and that she knew that the coffee was hot and that they were not at fault for this. 700 previous reports of injuries happened because of McDonald's coffee. In the end of all of this, she was awarded $2.7 million for all the damages that were made. I found all this information with an article called Truth About the Famous Hot Coffee Incident at todayifoundout.com. So next I'm going to be talking about a strike that happened against McDonald's. This happened in 2016, and this is because workers wanted to raise minimum wage to $15. At the time, minimum wage was at like $7.15. They wanted to raise it to $15 because they thought that they couldn't have a life off of $7.50 an hour. But this could cause many problems. First, companies would start replacing their workers with technology because in the end, this technology would save them money. The price of the food is going to go up because they now have to pay more for their employees, so they're going to have to raise something else so they can afford to pay them. And in the end, they won't really be able to afford their staff. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders were all for making minimum wage $15 because they said it closed the gap between the rich and the poor. So they were in favor of this and they thought that they should do it. Companies can't control strikes when they come up against them because basically these people are refusing to work and they're not going to come work until these changes are made. So these people were standing outside McDonald's with their signs and they were refusing to come back to work until they got their $15 in minimum wage. It gets in the way of the company's goals because in the end they don't have people that want to work for them. It's making their company look bad because nobody wants to work. And these people are outside with picket signs picketing against their company. I did read an article that said it's really hard to have a life on minimum wage, and I do strongly believe that, but I don't think that minimum wage companies can afford to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour. I think that's a little unrealistic for companies, especially like McDonald's. So I got all of this information with an article called People Living on Minimum Wage at USA Today. So lastly, I'm going to be talking about inflation. This is when the prices of everything go up. And at this time that this happened to McDonald's, this is when everything went up. Like gas was like $5 and milk went up. And so the same happened with McDonald's, especially with their beef, cheese, and coffee. They had experienced the prices of all these things go up. So in the end, when they have to pay more for a product, they also have to make their customers pay more. So they were raising their prices not too steep. And their strategy to this was they were going to raise them gradually so people didn't really notice the change instead of like just changing it all at once and the price goes up $4 for something, for example. McDonald's was worried that people weren't going to come and buy their burgers and they were just going to make them at home because in the end that's going to be cheaper for people. But they did believe that their McDonald's attracted the higher wage income families compared to other fast food restaurants. So they did believe that they weren't going to have a problem with this. raising the prices a little bit gradually. So in conclusion, I would just like to state that companies don't really have control over these external factors. These are things that happen that kind of come out of nowhere and can affect them hugely. So my main points in this speech was things like lawsuits, strikes, and inflation can all affect a company, whether they like it or not, and they have to handle it in the right situation.